Starting the live feed. Welcome to Commerce. This session is called People Are Not Resistant to Change, How People First Communication and Engagement Make Digital Change a Success. And this will be presented to you by Hannah Patton-Brown.
Thank you, Suresh. So, as Suresh said, my name's Hannah Patton-Brown and I'm the Head of Business Change at FITS. FITS are a Microsoft Gold partner and we specialise in change and adoption. So today, what we'll be talking about is how people first communication and change and adoption can actually make your change a success. First of all, I wanted to say thank you to all of the sponsors and to Mark and the team for making Commsverse possible. This is a great event, and coming together to do this over the internet just shows how great tech can be. So, how people first communication and engagement can make your technology deployment a success. First of all, what we need to kind of think about is how many times have we heard the phrase, people don't like change? I know I've heard it many times, and over the kind of decade that I've been practicing change, I've worked out that actually it's not always that people don't like change, it's that people don't like the way that the change is communicated to them. So if you say people don't like change, try and say that to the automotive industry or to the fashion industry. They make their money and they make success on the back of people enjoying change. And how do they do that? They make a living out of people enjoying change. And I think there's ways in which we as technological individuals and those that are involved in tech can actually take lessons from those industries. So a common preconception in enterprise IT is that people are afraid of change. Recently, during the COVID-19 pandemic, people had to adapt overnight to new ways of working. People have been sent home from work, previously in jobs, working 9 to 5 each day, never working from home, haven't had that option. And all of a sudden, they're thrust into a situation where they have to work from home. In this case, there's been a catalyst for the change, and they'll see the value in that change, i.e., you have to work from home because it's not safe for you to be at work. They realise what's in it for them. This is what the car industry and the fashion industry do really well. They sell the change, i.e. the new car or the new clothes, to people because they look at the way in which these items can enhance that person's life. And then they sell that enhancement, they sell that benefit of the change. And we can use that in tech to do the same thing. So what we can do is we can take those principles and apply them to technological change. So, for example, how many people do you think would be interested in owning a new car that was the same as everybody else's new car that was a government imposed new car? Not many people would be interested in that because they would see that as a top-down, you have to do this, enforced change. And in IT, we have a history of doing that. We impose change, we say this is happening and we say when it's happening, but we don't often tell people why, and we don't often tell them why it's important. We poorly communicate change a lot in IT. And often that's because change professionals aren't involved. People that actually aren't trained change managers in IT are doing the communicating from a service desk, a faceless individual sending out emails that kind of says, this is what we're going to do and on what day, with no reasons why. And that's what we have here. So this email is a caricature, yet it does represent the traditional way in which IT and technology change has been managed in a business setting. The traditional top-down approach leaves a lot to be desired. Users receive no explanation as to why change is happening. By failing to engage people in the change, people feel that it's happening against their will. They're not involved in the process. They've not been consulted. They don't know why it's happening. There's no reason given. And because they see that this has been imposed, they've not been involved in the process, they actually don't take it on board. They will continue to use old technologies. They will continue to use old ways of working, even if that is more difficult for them. If it adds time to their day, they will continue to do it because they don't see the value in the change. When we send an email like this out, there are several situations that occur. There's a psychology behind the way we communicate to people, and that enforces whether or not they will come to terms with what we're saying, whether or not they will believe in what we're saying, whether or not they will come along on the journey with us to that change. The psychology is that at the moment, for example, people are unconsciously competent in their roles. They sit down at their laptop, they know what they're doing, they've been maybe doing the same job for 10, 15 years, and they're unconsciously competent. They don't think about what they're doing, they just do it, day in, day out. We come along and we send them one of those emails, as I just showed, and we say, we're changing what you're doing, and there's no reason given as to why. Instantly, we feel attacked. Our way of working is changing. We've had no say in the matter. We've not been communicated. We've not been consulted with. And suddenly what we know and what we're comfortable with is shifting. That puts people in a primitive state of shock. And it's quite similar to the Kubler-Ross grief curve. And actually, as we change the way that people work, their productivity dips because suddenly they are consciously incompetent. Suddenly they're aware that what they're doing is different to the way it was before. They're perhaps not as confident as they were. And this causes people to become frustrated. Productivity dips because they're spending more time trying to work out a new way of doing things. Perhaps they've not been given any training. And they're subsequently going to become very depressed and not particularly happy at work. So that productivity goes right down. If we add some good communication, some consultation, some level of this is what's in it for you, and we communicate that at the start, we can kind of level off that productivity dip. However, to come back from a productivity dip, what we can do is we can offer training, we can offer support, we can offer Q&A sessions and all of the change management tips and tricks that we would use as change individuals, and we can bring them out of that productivity dip. And when we do that, they become consciously competent. People become, okay, I'm aware of how this has changed. I'm aware of what I now need to do, and I'm aware of the change and how that's affected me. Perhaps it saved them time, perhaps it hasn't, but they will at least know what they're doing and why it's happened. And that's the key here, is communicating why the change is happening and what's in it for them. Everybody has different levers for change and whether or not they will come along on that change journey with you. It's finding out what those levers are. And if we don't, when change is managed poorly, people will just revert back to the old ways of working. And if we've turned those off, people become very unproductive and may leave. You may get some turnover in staff because they don't like the way that change has been managed. And often people will get change fatigue. So in IT, if we've rolled out continually for the last 3 months and it's all been managed poorly, we could end up with people leaving businesses because of that poorly managed change and subsequent change fatigue. If, however, a change is managed well, employees will take on board that there is something in it for them. They will see the value in it and they will get on board and actually use the new tools. In doing so, their productivity should increase because we would have rolled out something that will either make their life easier, it will make their work more secure, or they will be aware of how it's impacting their place of work and believe that it's the right thing to do. Therefore, they're more likely to actually jump on board and get used to doing it the new way. Now, all of that is a psychological element around business change, and that's really important. It's really important to Fitz to put people first. Historically in IT, we've taken tech and we've imposed it on individuals. We've molded people to the technology. At Fitz, what we do is we take the technology and we mold it to the people. We sit down with them and we look at ways in which it can actually help them. We try and find out ways in which they're unhappy potentially at the moment, and we use those levers to get them to change. So the goal is to find out what people's pain points are with the existing technology. We want to know if perhaps the service desk take a week to respond. We want to know if perhaps there aren't ways in which they can communicate easily with their colleagues, and we can show them Teams and how transformative that as an application is. We want to know how to engage with them and show them the return on the investment that they will have when they've changed, and show them that their personal and their professional concerns will be dealt with by this new tool, whatever it is. It's about engaging and empowering people so that they've got a sense of ownership over that technology, so that it's not just something that's out of their hands, something that's not in their control. And we lead them to coming to that decision. We can steer them in that direction with good communication and with good engagement. So how do we do this? At Fitz, what are the steps we take, and how does this people-centric change look? Well, first of all, we establish the status quo. So we would go into an organisation, we would sit down with them, and we would do a change impact assessment. We would get a cross-section of individuals from around the business, from high to low, from whatever your job role is. We want to speak to you. We want to know what's good about the way things are, and we want to know what's bad about the way things are. We want to preserve what's good and what you view as being a success, and we want to take what you see as being a negative, and we want to use that as a lever for change. So if we know, for example, that there are too many different ways to communicate with your team and you don't know which is right, or perhaps you don't have a way to collaborate on a document and you're still sending attachments, saving different versions up to maybe 50 different versions, never knowing which is the right one and how to actually get into that document when somebody has got it open. If it's an Excel spreadsheet, we've all had that window pop up and say, you can't look at this right now because someone else has got it open. We want to know what the frustrations are, because we can use those to show people that actually what we're rolling out will alleviate some of those pain points. We want to specify the end date. So we want to know what the result should be. We want to know what a business wants to achieve, and then we can work out how to get there. We can work out the journey from A to B, and we can make sure that we get there in the quickest but also most effective route possible. We always demand feedback. We have continual iterations. We always drive a conversation to ensure that we're never going in the wrong direction with the project. Change can take months or even years to happen. Real, true adoption can take even longer. We want to make sure that throughout the process we're demanding that feedback, and we're making sure that people realise that we will take on their concerns, and if something isn't doing what they want it to do, we iterate, we change it, we carry it forward, and we make sure that we're bringing everyone along on that journey with us. We don't want to leave anyone behind, because essentially we're doing this people first. We start with people and we mould that technological journey to their needs. So ultimately we are a guide on that journey. Change agents, change managers, we are a guide on that journey, and we have to role model that behaviour. We have to be the point of contact. We have to be the person that will lead by example, and we will take those colleagues and employees with us along on that change. We'll be their hand holder, we'll show them how to use it. There will be an element of training in that involved, and we will then move forward as a group towards the end state. We'll also need to select appropriate modes of communication. Everybody learns in a different way. There is not a one-size-fits-all approach where we're concerned it fits. We take where we're going and we mould that journey to a specific organisation. When you look at the car industry or the fashion industry, they'll have adverts on radio, they'll have adverts in newspaper, they'll do it on TV. So they are catering for the different modes of communication that people are happy to listen to. Each of us has a different style. Some of us learn auditory, and radio adverts are great. Some of us learn visually and we want to just read things, and that's fine too, but we need to cater for those different ways of learning. We need to just lower people's filters and push the message that we are delivering through to them, however that is best achieved. So we choose and we change champions. We as individuals, if we're a change team, we can't actually get to everyone physically. There's not enough of us. So what we do is we train a group of advocates, we train a group of individuals that will echo our message, and we allow them time and information to go to the business and to deliver that message. So they're actually within the business, they're peers, and they push that message through from within the organisation. They offer a kind of peer-to-peer support network so that they can see what's going on internally and report back to us, and then we can show them things that need to change or things that need to improve, and they then perform that full feedback loop from us into the business and then back again. We build excitement and we launch. So one of the main things you can do around a launch day is to create a buzz. We want posters, we want events, we want people to be enthused by this. This is a good thing, and we want people to believe that this is a good thing. And if all of the communications we've offered up to now are the way they should be, people will be excited. People will want this change to happen, and it's a celebration of that change happening. It's really important to create that buzz and create that excitement so that we can actually show that what we're doing is transformative and something that will really impact the business. Finally, we monitor and assess. So we know that things can change and shift as more and more people are onboarded, and we monitor that. We will do analysis of adoption figures. We will take that information, we'll look at trends, things that need to change, and we'll pass that information back on to champions. They can then take that back into their groups, into their teams, and they can then show their teams or their groups how to do certain actions. So maybe we're deploying teams and IM is great, people are really using it, but the calls maybe aren't as good as we'd like. We then go back to the champions and we say, the analysis shows that IMs are great and people are communicating and collaborating on documents, but perhaps they're not using the call function as much as we'd like them to. Could you go back to your teams? Could you then offer them some more training, show them how to use it again, ask if there are any kind of training materials they need? What can we provide to show them how to do it and why they should be doing it. Ultimately, that's the most important thing. So we will reiterate the benefits. The benefits and what resonates with people can be different. So some people really like the thought of saving money. They're normally the people higher up in an organization, admittedly, but they will get on board and agree that this is the right thing to do if we can prove that it saves them money. Other people, those using the phone day in, day out, getting a dead arm holding the handset, may start to realize actually Teams is the way forward because I can have my hands free and I can type while I'm talking and I don't get RSI. So it's about finding the ways in which we can show people why they should do something and how it will help them individually. So FITS has been engaged in a multinational leader in sustainable technologies since 2018, and we've been implementing some security features for them. The firm holds considerable intellectual property and was highly motivated to protect its IP and customer data. What we've been doing there is we've been rolling out confidentiality labeling on emails, advanced threat protection, and also mobile device management. So that also includes people's personal devices. This is where the sticking point normally comes when you're doing these sorts of things. The sticking point normally is, whoa, hang on a second. I'm not giving you the option to look at my personal data. And why should I? You should provide me with a phone if you want to do that. And then it's a business phone and that's your information to do with as you please. However, providing everyone with a business phone at this particular organisation wasn't a possibility. So what we needed to do was look at the ways in which we could sell this security change to the individuals at the business. What we did was we showed them that actually through communication and engagement that we would be protecting not only the business and their IP, but also individual employees' data. The business obviously holds their personal bank details, it holds their addresses, their phone numbers, and all of the forms and things that they filled in over time since they've worked there are all stored in the place where all the IP is stored too. So potentially if a hack had taken place or if data left the organisation that shouldn't and it wasn't labelled correctly in an email or as an attachment, potentially their personal data could be compromised. People are hearing a lot at the moment about phishing, about bad links in emails, about malware being deployed to devices. We use these personal situations and these personal experiences to actually enable us to get the message across that this isn't just about protecting the business, this is about protecting them as individuals and protecting their friends and colleagues and everybody else in the organisation from malware, from phishing, from all of these different ways to hack an organisation and cause data breach. So in doing that and in doing pilots where we actually showed the capability of the deployment and we showed what they could and they couldn't see and what they could and they couldn't wipe from your personal phone, and then it was only data relating to the business that was stored on your mobile phone. So for example, you've got an Outlook app on your mobile that's related to the business. If you're an individual that is deemed to be a data breach or you've left the organisation, they can then remove that data from your phone. But we had to make it clear through clear communication, through people first approach, that it wasn't going to affect any personal data that was on those devices. And in doing that, we managed to make that deployment a success. Now, we're providing all sorts of organizations, large and small, with business change features, functions. We're providing communication, training, documentation, and we're actually providing at the moment a free half-day session, a change readiness assessment all around migrating to the latest Microsoft technologies. So if you'd like to talk more about that, then please feel free to join the breakout session after this meeting. We will post that in the chat, and it would be great to talk to you about it. Now, basically what we've learned from this is that it's not necessarily the way that we show people how to use the technology that makes it successful from a change and adoption perspective. It's not the way that we show them what to do, it's how we communicate that change. So it's not about the technology itself, it's about putting people first, and it's about showing them what's in it for them, and that's the key. Fits do that really well. We all believe that that's the right way to do it, and we want to see an end to putting the technology into people's lives as opposed to showing them the benefits of a new way of working. So it would be really good to chat to anybody that thinks that we could help them to implement change in their organisation. So please feel free to also add me on LinkedIn and join me on the breakout session. Those links are on this slide, and it's been a pleasure. So thank you, and I'll hand back over to Suresh for any questions that have come in whilst I've been talking.
All right. Thank you, Anna, for the great session. So I've got some questions on my own with regards to this change. So from your experience, right, the communications, does it get some attention if it's being sent by a specific individual in the organization, maybe the CEO or somebody that gets more attention rather than just a regular employee in the organization?
I think it can do, and I think that that's somewhat a double-edged sword sometimes. So it can certainly carry some weight if it comes from someone senior, and we're more likely to get a senior person on board with that if they see the benefit in it. So from that perspective, what I've been speaking about is really key to getting them involved and making sure that actually they realise there is something in it for everybody, and getting across what's in it for them specifically as well, because otherwise they won't actually agree to doing that. So that's the first part. So that kind of enforces what I've been saying. Getting them to do that is great. At the same time, from someone senior, you can find that people switch off from it because they just view that as another one of these, this is a top-down change that is happening. But I think the key to take away from it is not necessarily who it's from, it's that it's from someone, and it's not just a faceless email from a shared mailbox that just says this is happening on this day. So in a way, yes, and in a way, no. It's a neither yes nor a no situation, but there are pros and cons to both of those things.
Yeah, I actually agree with you in some of the mentions, the channels where you communicate. I've had some experiences where they were introducing new services in the office. So they sort of like have a fun event where they had some donuts and stuff and had a demo available for all the employees to come in and socialize and at the same time find out what these new services are. And I think that definitely helps when you come to making big changes, which are maybe a bit more significant than other normal changes that come along.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that, I mean, your point around making someone senior actually deliver the message, I think that's really useful when you're kicking off a project. So say there's a big change coming and we've been drafted in to create that comms plan and create that engagement and create that successful change. What we would do is assign a sponsor, and that would be somebody senior that believes in what we're doing, believes in the change, believes in the process that we are fulfilling, and we would get them to kick that off via email or via ideally a video, And we would send that to everybody as this is what's happening, this is why it's happening. You'll learn more about this as the kind of change process continues, but it would show from the outset that those that are in powers above believe in what's happening. So in that respect, communication from someone senior is really useful. And then from there, because people then are aware that this is being brought in from above, they kind of can then focus on the change and what's in it for them and the return on that investment, because they realize that actually it's being mandated, it's being believed in by those that be, and they're more likely to then listen to what we've got to say going forward. But what we try not to do is to overdo that sponsorship element, because as I said before, what you then do is you turn people off from it being about them, and it becomes the manager's told me to do this. And that's when you start to get dissension, because people believe that it's just this top down, this is what's happening situation.
Right.
So it's a fine line, and it's a fine balance to strike.
Yeah, that's good. All right, I think that's all I had for the questions.
There seems to be a question that was posted by Anna, and she's asked if there's a PowerPoint with speaker notes available, and obviously those will be posted in the speaker session notes afterwards, won't they? So I'll post my presentation in there. Just going to mute because my dog's barking.
No, that's okay.
So yeah, we will then post that information in there straight away afterwards, and anyone that's been either unable to make it or wants to talk afterwards can access the presentation there. Oh, and Anna's come back again and said, or is there a recording? And of course, this is being recorded, isn't it, Suresh? So do you know if this gets sent out to attendees or where they access this?
I believe there will be some communications regarding that a bit later, but yeah, so I don't have details on that. But I think if you wait out, I think there'll be some communications to show where the videos are and where you can get the notes and stuff like that.
Excellent. Great stuff. So maybe Suresh, you could just respond to Anna in the Q&A there.
All right. Okay.
Okay, cool.
Okay, so yeah, so there will be a breakout session, Hannah, that you can join in a bit, and any audience who may want to have direct communications, they can do so. And I think for these, are there any other questions for Hannah that anybody wants to ask? Okay, so I think Adrian has mentioned that the recordings will be accessible to those who have paid access for that sessions.
Okay, fine. Excellent. Well, I'll head over to the breakout session, and thanks everybody for joining. Hope you've enjoyed it.
All right.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.